Chairwoman Ball. Good afternoon. Jake Sauer, Director of Public Safety for Manatee County. So I'm going to give you a couple of quick slides here to brief you on everything that occurred from our last press briefing yesterday. A leak in the containment wall has been ongoing at the Piney Point facility over the past week, as we all know. Public Works worked overnight on April 2nd in an attempt to fix the leak, but those attempts were unsuccessful. At approximately 10:30 a.m. on April 3rd today, on-site engineers deemed the situation to be escalating, and all command staff and residents of that area were again issued an evacuation notice. A portion of the containment wall at the leak site shifted laterally, signifying that structural collapse could occur at any time. Staff and personnel responding to the incident have relocated to here at the Manatee County Public Safety Center and our Emergency Operations Center to coordinate the response. Evacuation orders were initially ordered today for a half-a-mile area south of the site and 1 mile north of the site. Another notification was disseminated today following the incident escalation. This slide here will show you the affected areas of the evacuation zone that we sent alerts out to, advising of the mandatory evacuation. We have also closed down US 41 at the Hillsborough County line down to Buckeye Road as well. Buckeye Road still remains closed from last night, as well as Bud Roden Road, 113th and O'Neill as well. Non-passenger traffic, so industrial traffic going to the port, is still allowed to access the Manatee County Port. A local state of emergency was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on April 1st. Governor DeSantis declared a state of emergency for Manatee County today to ensure state resources are allocated and accessible to Manatee County for both response and recovery efforts. Public Works worked with a contractor and attempted to fix the leak overnight, like I said, and the Department of Environmental Protection deployed a team to the site, and they are now located in Manatee County here at our EOC. The Florida Department of Emergency Management deployed an incident management team to lead the response to the incident, along with the Florida Department of Emergency Environmental Protection, and this team is also co-located here at the EOC. Our Manatee County Emergency Operations Center is activated to a level 2 partial activation, with all relevant emergency support functions reporting here to the EOC today. So going forward, we'll continue to engage with the Department of Emergency Management, our on-site engineers, and Florida Department of Emergency Management, all involved, in our local partners to ensure the informed decisions can be made by our group here in a timely manner. We provide shelter to any evacuated residents. However, none has reached out that they need shelter at the moment. We'll continue to enforce road closures and limit access to the affected area, and we'll respond to and submit to the state and fulfill resource requests from partners in a timely manner. And we will continue to share information with our wide reach of partners to ensure a common operating picture until this event is mitigated. With that, I'll turn it over to County Administrator Scott Hopes, and then after that, Shannon Herbin from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
Thank you, Mr. Sauer. First, I'd like to recognize Senator Jim Boyd, who's with us, Representative Will Robinson, and County Commissioner Kevin Van Ostenbridge. I'd also like to thank DP. They have had their folks on site both at Piney Point and the port monitoring the water discharge. In addition, we have the U.S. Coast Guard here with us in the EOC, Florida Department of Emergency Management, the Florida Department of Transportation, the State and Regional Incident Management Team, and we've got additional law enforcement. Our sheriffs are here. We have our hardworking staff that have been activated all week, and as you heard, working through the night, Manatee County Public Safety, Emergency Management, our Public Works and Parks and Natural Resources Department, County Administration, and of course, we've had active engagement with our County Commission. As you know, the situation has been escalating over the past 24 hours to the point where we have been working with our partners in Hillsborough County with the administrator up there. We have recognized that we need to ensure that our commercial traffic gets in and out of Port Manatee, especially our fueling trucks, to ensure that during this holiday weekend, the surrounding area maintains fuel in the gas stations. The governor, as you heard, has given full support. In addition, he's sending additional resources down to us, including pumps, cranes, other heavy equipment that are going to be necessary should we experience that full breach. I would just like to reiterate that those residents in the area, if you have not evacuated, please do so. We in the county are doing everything to mitigate the risk to the various businesses in the area. The Sheriff's Department helped with sandbagging the gas plant, which supplies natural gas to FP&L. So it's really an all hands on deck. With the situation as it continues to escalate, we'll be continuing to elevate the functions here at the EOC. With that, we'll open it up for any questions you may have, and we'll ensure, oh, here you go. You're going to handle it. Sorry, thank you.
Hello, my name is Shannon Herbin. I'm with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Just wanted to let you guys know that DEP is here. We're committed to working with Manatee County and local state officials to ensure that the release is stopped as quickly as possible. Our number one priority, obviously, is the protection of public health and safety. And as Director Sauer and County Administrator just said, Governor DeSantis has declared a local state of emergency, and that will, of course, ensure that resources are available for all response and recovery.
All right, now we'll open up for questions.
Can you describe what a full release would look like? Are we talking homes, feet underwater? What would that look like?
Right now, it appears that the flow is going the direction that is planned. We have some charts and maps that we'll be making available shortly as those keys are released. We are talking about should the breach where you see on the side wall, should that create a substantial opening where we've got around now we probably have about 500 to 600 million gallons still in the retention pond, that it would probably escape out. Fortunately, there are areas, low-lying areas, that would absorb some of that. So we're probably looking at an initial sheet of a flow, which would then migrate to the north and follow the terrain down into the bay. We're hopeful that that area to the south will be protected by some of the borrow pits that are already there that can absorb some of it. And as you've seen, we've been actively moving, in addition to the 22,000 gallons per minute that is going through the siphon pipes down to the port. They have additional pumps that are pumping out, I think it's around 1,500 gallons a minute. In addition to that, as you know, the governor is bringing in additional pumps. The folks from HRK have left the EOC to go up to refuel the pumps that are currently pumping. So, you know, every minute that we go without a full breach occurring, it's reducing the amount of area, volume of water that would go into the surrounding land.
Dr. Hopes, if I could, if you would repeat the question so that all the reporters can hear it, please.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you.
When you say unsuccessful last night, what exactly do you mean?
The question was what efforts last night were unsuccessful. There was a combination of additional commercial equipment and county staff operating heavy equipment, dump trucks, front-end loaders, excavators, to pile earthen material at the area of the breach, which was much smaller yesterday evening, and then in addition brought in a substantial amount of rock that we were able to garner with Senator Boyd's help with Mosaic that had rock stored at the port. And so the attempt was to kind of plug the hole in the dam. If video is, I think video's out there showing when they reached a point where they were about to celebrate and then it blew through. You've got an immense volume of water. You've got 77 acres, and I think it goes up to 25 feet deep. So when you think about opening the drain in the bottom of your bathtub, where you have a minuscule amount of water. So you can imagine the opening that you see in those films with that kind of volume and depth of water putting pressure on that. And so you can imagine, the earlier question was, what are we talking about a full breach? We're talking about the potential of about 600 million gallons within a matter of seconds and minutes leaving that retention pool and going around the surrounding area. Fortunately, the population density is relatively low, extremely low. It's a lot of agricultural area, and there are some residual borrow pits that still have capacity to absorb a bulk of that. We've been looking at possible engineering to move some of that rock over to where the road is washing out, to continue to maintain the diversion so that some of our key agricultural areas may be protected from that water, keeping in mind that some of the water in that pool is salt water, which doesn't go very well with our potato crops and things like that. So
So what's being done now? Is this, you just let it go and kind of let it happen? There's
no, absolutely not. The question was, so what happens now? You know, what are we doing? There are still key engineers on site. As I mentioned, we still have full siphoning. There are 2 siphon pipes that leave the pool and go down and literally empty out at the port into a substantial drainage ditch, which has conduits going underneath the railroad tracks and then emptying in a pipe to the seawall. And so that is, think it's 22,000 gallons a minute. It's been running at full flow. I think we left yesterday afternoon about 2 o'clock, and they opened up the second pipe. So when you think of that volume of water, now that being said, it's still going to take 10 to 12 days at 22,000 gallons per minute to deplete the supply that's there. So what's being done now is basically to move as much water out of there in a controlled fashion, in addition to looking at possibly flooding some of the existing Piney Point low areas so that at least this material stays on Piney Point grounds with as much volume as possible.
The latest emergency alert said that a breach was imminent. Does that mean a partial breach, or are you saying a breach is imminent at some point?
Well, I think if you look at the current flow coming out of there, that's a breach. So we have experienced that imminent breach. Now it's the degree of breach, whether it is partial, with a majority of the water currently leaving under a controlled fashion. And that has gone extremely well. And we're talking about, the HRK is talking about starting up an additional 2 pumps. And so that's the controlled. So the more time we have for controlled release, the lesser the minimization of the uncontrolled. The risk that we're dealing with right now is that uncontrolled release. And if you think of the composition, there is a very thick vinyl liner that you think of it as a soft swimming pool. And they rightly identified that the initial leak in that liner was in the base of the southeast or the east-southeast corner of that pool. So now what you see is you see that opening. So the concern is if that liner continues to unzip, so to speak, because it's probably at a seam, that when that opens up, you will see the crevice where the breach has occurred continue to unzip and break that rock away. And so we're all just trying to ensure that we have an accurate projection of the flow and where we need to mitigate so that we still control, even with an uncontrolled breach, we still have some level of control of where water is directed.
And how many other ponds are in the area, and what happens to those once this is drained? What happens to kind of the structural stability of the area?
On the Piney Point HRK property, there are currently 3 that have volume in them. There are a couple that are kind of intended for overflow that can absorb some capacity. The question was how many ponds are in the area. If you look at the aerial, you have the Buckeye Road area to the south with those borrow pits, the Buckeye borrow pits, and I think there are about 3 there. You also will notice in the aerial that I believe it's to the southwest, there's some additional area. And then you have a substantial lowland area, almost like a cypress kind of swamp to, I believe, the southeast. So those areas are would be probably effective at protecting the south so that the flow can continue as we expect to follow the contour to the bay.
So just so I'm clear, between the three ponds, that's more than 700 million gallons that we were talking yesterday. That's just the one pond there.
Right. Total.
Sorry, go ahead.
So among those three ponds, you're almost looking at 1 billion gallons at Piney Point. If we maintain control, the concern is that should you have a full breach, think of a dam opening up, that runs the risk of destabilizing the walls of the other area. So when we look at the risk factor is really a potential release of nearly 1 billion gallons. The material in the other two pools, keep in mind, right now, the volume that's leaving is basically salt water we saw ducks yesterday. There are snook swimming in there. I mean, it's sustaining wildlife. That's not the case for the other two pools. Okay, so the total now, because we've been able to discharge a couple 100 million, so now we're down to 800 million gallons. Total? The total in the two large ponds is 800 million? Let's just say it is a heck of a lot of stuff. Okay, total 800 million gallons on site. Give or take a few gallons.
For the people who live in the area and evacuated and left some of the livestock, what can they do for their animals?
So the question is, any livestock that's left? I don't think we're talking a Katrina level of flooding. We're probably talking about a few feet, an initial sheet of water, and then a kind of flood, flowing of it. So, hopefully, and I don't think we're thinking like a 30-foot tidal wave like when Katrina went on the shore of Mississippi. So livestock.
Even though it's contaminated water, they'll still be there.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, what's at risk right now is water that is sustaining a pretty interesting ecosystem. Some people I heard were like sneaking in there and fishing for snook because it's like a stocked pond.
We've got time for 3 more questions, guys, so who's gonna be next? Okay, right here.
And back.
Talk just about maybe DEP can weigh into it, like what are we talking about overall environmental impact in some of the waterways? What are we seeing now? What's potential here?
Well, let's say that we've been trying to contain this water unsuccessfully for 20-something years. What is being displaced currently is not as bad as what we are trying to maintain does not leave Piney Point in an uncontrolled way. That is not we're controlling that. The question was penalties for the storage facilities. That is a whole other issue. That's between the state, and I'm not prepared to answer that question.
And you mentioned this is something that you guys have been working on for several years. Why is it a surprise now? Why is action happening right now? Why do we wait till now?
I'm coming back to her question. So the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is prepared to, and dedicated to the full enforcement for any damages to our state's natural resources. So that is definitely happening. It's just, right now, our top priority is ensuring the ceasing of the breach and the protection of everyone in the area.
All right, we've got time for one last question. Has the jail been evacuated? That's the Minnesota Sheriff's Office. We're gonna give someone else one more chance.
And-
Okay, Allison. So you talked about environmental impact, we've got one, and obviously you talked about it can sustain life in there, but what about these other two, the environmental impact, if this breach destabilizes those two other ponds out there?
So the question is, what regarding the environmental impact of the two remaining? First, let me clarify. We got accurate numbers. So in the pond that is currently being offloaded, about 480 million gallons remain, and the other two contained in composite 400 million. So we're right around 880 million. The other two areas do have, I would say, waste that would be less conducive to life on land and life in the sea. It means that it has, the pH would have, in order to safely discharge it, it would need to be treated for pH, reduce the ammonia content, other materials.
But the water now
With,
not necessarily.
and with that, I think we need to wrap up. I thank you all for being here. We will continue to update the press and the public as the events continue to progress and change. Thank you all.
Dr. Oaks, could I
Sure.
add one? Thanks, sir. I just wanted to let you know that we really are not scheduling another briefing this afternoon. We'll probably send out just a press release, but we'll probably have another one tomorrow. Thank you.
In addition to that, the DEP is monitoring all of the water, both on-site and being discharged 24 hours a day. They're sampling. All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.